Hello, and welcome to Monumental, where we sit down with entrepreneurs, leaders, visionaries, and big thinkers making monumental change. Here's your host, Evan Holiday.
What is up, everybody? We are here in the Monumental Studios. I'm your host, Evan Holiday, and today we have with us my man, Felipe. Felipe, how are you doing?
Dude, I'm good. First of all, it is beautiful in here. So nice. Thanks for having me, dude.
Yes.
I'm excited to be here today.
Yes, excited to have you, man.
Thanks.
So a little background before we dive in. So we first got connected through Ryan Murdoch.
Yes.
Ryan Murdoch was going on his cross-country mobile home park tour
Yeah, he was.
last summer, and he hit both of us up, and we all had lunch together, and we hit it off. We're like, man, we gotta reconnect.
Yeah.
And then we randomly ran into each other literally across the street, both at Mastermind events in Destin, Florida, 2 weeks ago? And so here we are today recording this Monumental podcast.
That's an interesting story because I remember, I don't remember if I think I texted you or you were texting Ashley. And I was like, hey, you're in Florida too, or you saw my story or something about like we were in Florida. And I was like, oh, where are you at? And you were like, Destin or something. And I dropped you my location. And then you dropped me yours, right? And I thought you copied and pasted my location. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
What? I was like, no, where are you at? And you were like, across the street. And I was like, no way. So that was funny.
It was wild, everybody. Literally
it
across the street. So a little bit about Felipe before we get started in today's episode. He is a man of many awesome businesses and impact. He does all different types of real estate investing. How many units are you up to now?
So we have 21, 18 in-house, and the rest are out of state.
Yeah, I love it. So 21 units. He has a wholesaling business. He has an e-commerce business. Mm-hmm. And to top it all off, he also runs a pretty amazing mastermind, Race Defi, financial independence. And I got to see that. I got to witness that in Destin a couple weeks ago. So a phenomenal group.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Felipe, with that, let's just kind of dive into a little bit of your story.
Let's do it. So I'll start from what we have or what we're doing now, and then I'll kind of go back to the beginning. But we have Race Defi, so it is the mastermind group, and you got to see like a very intimate portion of it. So we have 70 active members. But in the retreats, we obviously can't take that many due to COVID. But we do have like retreats where we have like 15, 20 max in a huge, we try to buy the biggest house that we can afford. So there's plenty of space. And then we really just get like deep into, each other's stories and try to help each other out with the difficulties that the people are going through to get them to that next level. So that's the mastermind. We're really intentional about what we do there. There's like no sales pitches and none of that kind of stuff. But more than that, then I do have real estate, like we said, 21 units, blessed with that, as well as an e-commerce business. So we have 3 e-commerce stores, 2 on Amazon and 1 on Walmart, which people don't even know that you can like sell on Walmart, which is crazy because people are like, oh, you sell on Amazon or eBay? Like, yes, but also Walmart. So that one's really good. The return on that is ridiculous. It's like 25%. I'll tell you about it after. We also have a credit repair company that I forgot to mention. And that one was really hard because credit repair seems to have like a stigma behind it. Like, it's okay, we all know, like a shady or whatever, right? But I think it's because like no one's took it serious or done it the right way and in an honest way. And I always preface that with like, you can't fix your own credit. You don't need us. We are definitely more of like, I don't have time to do that. Can someone take care of this? 4 or 5 months later, your credit's clean again from all the negative on there. So that's what we do. We take pride in that. And basically the reason we have the 3 businesses that we have, where I partner with my business partner, Diego Corzo, is, so the mastermind was due to a lack of affordable, and this is going to be because you're affordable housing, so I'd love to get into that too, but we wanted affordable mentorship for everyone, right?
Yeah.
And what we did was we found the average cost of mentorship from its lowest to its highest, and it seemed to be right at about $25,000 annually for someone to have a very good, solid mentor. So we charge $2,500 for a mentor for a year.
Wow.
So we charge like literally, I think it was like 10%, right? Like we do the best we can, so anybody can afford it.
Yeah.
So that was why we started Race Defi. The reason we started the e-commerce business was because a lot of people's second reason why they couldn't get involved in real estate was they couldn't find a second source of income that didn't cut into their already 40, 50, 60, sometimes hour work week, right? So we were like, how do we help these people out? So we eventually found e-commerce through, shout out to my business partner, Christian Trujillo. Awesome dude. Serves in the military. He's an immigrant from, not Venezuela. He's going to hate me because I forgot. Anyway, so he's here, he's in the military, but he needed e-commerce to create those second sources of income. So that's why we started the e-commerce business, so we can help other people start second sources of income without having to, spend tons of hours working, and e-commerce does that for you. And then the credit repair was because a lot of people couldn't get into real estate because their credit wasn't where it needed to be. So that's why we have the businesses that we have, aside from the real estate. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, I find that fascinating. I think I've following you over the last 6-8 months on Instagram. I'm like, man, how does he have all the time in the world for a credit business, a wholesale business, an e-com business, a real estate investing business, a mastermind business? Mm-hmm. It's a lot, but you've been very successful doing and being able to juggle and maintain and what's the word? Excel throughout all that.
Yeah, it's interesting because so I have a mentor. Not a lot of people know who he is. I keep him very under the table. His name is Dom. He's from Canada, and he told me once something that hit really hard to home. He said, the moment you can afford it, outsource it.
Yep.
Like, if the moment you can afford it, I guarantee you, someone can do it better than you. 100%. And when you can accept that, like, your business is really going to grow. So that's kind of what I do. The moment we can afford to outsource a product and still make 10%, like whatever we can, like it's going to be outsourced so that we can continue to grow on what we're good at.
So what for you, let's take a step back.
Sure.
Felipe, before all the businesses, what was that like? And then how did you transition? Like, what was the first business?
Sure. So starting out way from the beginning, real estate was my bread and butter. That's kind of where it all started. And it started because, so when I was 11 or 12, my parents got divorced. Right here in Nashville is where I grew up. But my parents got divorced in like the Latin culture. Like the man makes the money and like the woman stays home and makes the home and everything. So when my parents got divorced, all that money went with my dad. And what happened was my mom was left with the house, a mortgage, and not really a great job. So she cleaned houses. My mom's always done that just to like make extra income, but like she really had to scale that a little bit more. But what she did was we had a 2-story home, but the downstairs was just like a small loft and a 2-car garage. No idea why we had a 2-car garage. We didn't even have probably 2 cars, but we converted that into bedrooms, living spaces, and an extra bathroom. So we rented that out, and that covered our mortgage. So I always explained that like people tend, like in that situation, we felt like the water was at our neck. I don't want to say that we were poor by any means, because my mom like super hustled for us not to be, but one slip of the pool and like we were going to feel that water. So what real estate did in that situation for us by converting that basement was dropping the water more maybe towards our like chest area or even belly, and then like, okay, great, like maybe we can't afford McDonald's now, like maybe we can get something to go. And all of a sudden things started changing. And then from that, I took that experience and was like, okay, I can 10X this, post high school and college. I was like, I can definitely do that just a lot of times over. And that's how I got started in real estate. And, it's just kind of flourished from there.
That's amazing.
Yep.
So it almost came out of a necessity of saying, hey, how do we hustle and make our way out of this situation that we don't want to be in?
100%, yep.
And then, you fell in love with it. You're like, hey, this is my spot.
No, not at all. Actually, coming out of college, I wanted to be a police officer. Like, that was my goal since growing up here in Nashville, and then more sub-city in Antioch, Tennessee. So, like, where Antioch is. It's, like, the biggest sub-city in Nashville, but it's, like, also probably one of the poorest, and, So that's where I grew up, and I was like, okay, I want to go back and serve like that community. Like I wanted to work in Antioch. I'm bilingual. I'm Hispanic. I grew up in Antioch. Like this is going to be great for me, right? Unfortunately, I didn't get in. I'll take that back. I got into the academy. I was in there for 3 days, and then I was let go. The trainer was like, we actually have enough Latino police officers. Like you're good to go.
Oh my god.
And that was it. If you've heard my Bigger Pockets episode, there's like a giant story there. But that was that was really it. And I was like, okay, that sucks. I'd figure something else out. But it's interesting because real estate was always in my background. Yep.
So going out of that, that sounds terrible. Just the experience of that.
Yeah.
I know a lot of a lot of people unfortunately have to go through similar situations like that.
Yeah.
What was that like going into real estate, and now you're up to 21 units? How did you, like going back to delegating, how did you first get to a point where you were first delegating?
Sure. So I got to first my goal was to reach financial independence, and then like reaching that, I realized that financial independence is missing a letter, and that's time. So a lot of people will have financial independence, like they have the money coming in from rental incomes, and like they don't have to work at their 9 to 5, but now they're working for themselves. And people are like, oh, I just want to work for myself. And I'm like, dude, that's sometimes twice as hard. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Like, yeah, you can leave a 40-hour work week, but now you're working 80 hours for yourself. And then I had my son, and I was like, okay, I can't do this forever. I can't work 60 hours for myself, not to work 40 hours for someone else.
Exactly.
And I was like, I have to figure this out.
Work nights and weekends and cutting into that quality time.
100%. So what I did was, and this was where I learned the lesson, then I'll get into outsourcing. So I bought a 6-unit apartment complex in Cookeville, Tennessee. I think you might know where that is. I went to school out there at Tennessee Tech University. And very quickly, it was taking up a lot of my time. Like, I didn't realize how much time even just a small 6-unit apartment complex was going to take. And I was like, okay, this is cash flowing. I'm making like $2,000 a month in cash flow. Like, this is fantastic. But the work, it's like I'm working the same as if I was working a job. So I didn't know systems and processes and none of that. So I read a book called Life on Air. I was telling you about it earlier. And it kind of put into perspective what my real life goals were, what I wanted for my family, for my wife, for my kid, like what I really wanted. And at this time, my son was born. His name is Armando, awesome little kid, but he was born with something called SPD. And it's not like something, way out there. I know other people have it way harder than we do. But SPD is just basically like sensory processing disorder. So if something loud noises, maybe even this light would like really bother him, just because his sensory is like boosted.
Yeah.
But there's positive to those too. So like when he gives me a hug, it's like a hug like you've never got before. Like he's gonna hold on and squeeze because he like really feels that emotion. But also like a siren goes by and he's like running to my arms and holding his ears. So I was like, okay, I gotta be home to help my wife more. Like this isn't like just her job, it's mine too. So what I did was I ended up selling the 6-unit apartment complex and bringing all that money back to Nashville. I bought one single family home cash that was giving me $1,500 in cash flow because it was cash. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I like this better. So I focused on doing that, buying houses, cash, or as much as I could. And I know like that ROI doesn't make sense, that COC doesn't, like none of that makes sense numbers wise. But once you find your why you're doing what you're doing, all of a sudden, like you have more of a focus on one of them. Like I want cash flow because cash flow equals time. And when I realized that, cash on cash went out the window, return on investment went out the window. Like all that for me was like, yes, I could be a multimillionaire somewhere else with this money, but I'm okay living in this $200,000-$400,000 a year range. I don't have to be a multimillionaire or a millionaire cash flow guy. Like, dude, 200,000, 300,000 cash flows, that's still really nice. Yeah. And people don't get that there's a difference between 100,000 and $1 million. Like, there's a lot in between there.
And you brought up a good point of like the ROI, the cash on cash, like all that stuff is literally just stuff that we made up. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I think I saw a great post about it, like, everything that all of us are doing, we're all just making up as we go. And so, this idea of like, hey, we have to hit a metric, that we put that stress and that, that those rules and those boundaries on ourselves. And sounds like you realize that and we're like, hey, I don't have to conform to everybody else's rules. I make my own rules, and you also live your life on your own terms when you do that. You say, hey, cash flow is important to me, and semi-passive cash flow at that, to allow me to gain more time with my family and my son and my wife.
100%. And so that's where the, outsourcing work came, where it was like, okay, how quickly can I afford to pay someone to do this so that now I don't have to? Yeah. And Evan, that goes into like even like cooking and cleaning. Yeah. Like we have a chef that cooks our meals and then sends them to our house and then we just have our meals 3 or 4 times.
We do the same thing.
And people, and like, I get it, because like when I was younger, I was like, oh, rich folk do that, right?
Yeah.
But it's about the time that it gives you back. I don't spend 45 minutes at the grocery store. I don't spend another 45 minutes cooking, and I don't spend another 20 minutes cleaning the dishes, right? I get to enjoy 30 minutes of meal with my family, as crazy as it is with my son, but I get to enjoy that crazy.
Yeah.
And then that other hour and a half, as long as I do something with it productive, then it's worth someone else cooking it for me. Because now I have an hour and a half to network, to maybe close another deal, maybe analyze 3 or 4 more deals and figure out if that's gonna work for me. So as long as I put that time to proper use, then I can say, yeah, I'm definitely gonna pay X amount for a meal, because now I have an hour and a half bought back of my time. So that's kind of like the mindset that we got when it was like outsource.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I think and we've talked a little bit about this on Monumental in the past, so like it's so important to put a value and a price on your time.
Yes.
And what is that worth to you to spend an hour doing something? And then what are the lowest value items that you know need to get done, but you could just as easily outsource for a much lower rate and free up your time. I mean, it's crazy the amount of things that was a focus of mine in 2020, was like, how can I build a team around myself, build a team around Holiday Ventures, and like you said, even personal things, like how can I outsource like travel planning? How can I outsource cooking meals? How can I outsource cleaning our house? You know, we don't really do much of that anymore, because we realize we're like, hey, those things need to get done, but it doesn't have to be us.
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, now we're able to do more deals. We're able to have more fun. We're able to network on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important for anyone to realize that, to like how many decisions you make in a day versus how many like financial decisions you make, right? Like to gain your freedom. So if you're in the morning, what am I gonna have for breakfast, lunch, dinner? Who's gonna clean my house? Who's gonna wash my clothes? And so forth and so on, all those decisions. What about like who's gonna take care of me? Who's gonna take care of my mental health, my spiritual health, my financial health? Like who's gonna take care of me healthy? And I need to do that for me and my family. I don't need to be worrying about who's gonna cook, clean, do all these things. And past that, I don't need my wife doing that either. Like I need my wife like helping us grow together and like raise my son to, you know, not be an a-hole, right? Like he needs to be a loving, caring guy, right? And it's my responsibility for my son to grow up to be, you know, a good person. And same thing with my wife. It's our responsibility to grow something together. And it doesn't make sense for her to spend 4 hours a week, you know, cleaning home. It's like, she's probably a lot smarter than me. So let me leverage that.
I love it. And so with all of the multiple different business lines that you have you partnered in those businesses, or have you found strategic partnerships or delegated some of that for each of those different businesses?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So if anyone follows me for any amount of time on Instagram, they know that I am not the brightest color in the crayon box. I'm probably like the brown. Get it? Brown. Come on. Dad joke? No, so what I do is I leverage other people's strengths against my strengths, and our weaknesses basically, like, so my weakness is his strength is my weakness on my business partner. So for example, Diego Corzo and I started Race Defi, the Mastermind, the credit repair company, and we have rental property here in Antioch together. He's really good, numbers, running spreadsheets, making sure everything is like streamlined, our bills and like all that kind of stuff, making sure the bank accounts are all set up, just making sure everything looks clean and cut for banks. And I'm really good at like managing contractors and like taking care of, you know, all the boots on the ground stuff. For example, right now I got a painter working at one of the houses. Like before I got here, I set him up, everything is kosher. So it's like, okay, that's your strength, this is my strength, my weakness is your strength, and vice versa. That goes really, really far. And people make the mistake of partnering with other like-minded individuals,
people that are like them,
which I have found to not work as well, right? And that is how we structure our partnerships. And I have 3 partners. So I have Christian, Diego, Xavier, and Druven. So 4 partners in what we do, in different real estate or different aspects. And all of them are completely different. Like if I had them here in the room, you'd be like, what? Like, like you and Felipe are like not, like in school, we probably wouldn't have been friends because we're like complete opposites. But now we're great business partners because we understand each other's strengths and weaknesses.
I love that. And what for you, like how have you gone about finding these partners and also going into these for me and probably everybody listening, they're like, man, those could be seen as very vastly different business models. How have you learned new business models, and then how have you figured out the right partners for those?
So I don't worry so much about the business. I worry about the partner. The business is going to take care of itself. I can grow a landscaping company with Diego because I know what I'm good at and I know what he's good at.
Yeah.
We can literally I can start a car sale. It doesn't matter. The business is almost irrelevant, which is cool because now we get to choose to do businesses on what we love. Because Diego and I, or Christian and I, or some of my business partners and I, we know what each other likes and loves to do. And I'm not going to call, for example, one of my business partners and be like, hey, can you handle this contractor? Because he's being a real douche right now, and like da-da-da-da. And it's like, no, I know that's what I'm good at. I'm not going to call Diego. Now I'm going to call Diego and say, hey, can we have an alignment meeting? I'd love to see the financials on fill in the blank. Absolutely. Do I know what I'm looking at? Probably not. I just get the check because Excel sheets stress me out. But or whatever he's using.
And know your strengths and weaknesses.
Know your strengths and weaknesses. So for me, it's just like we can build businesses really to our liking, because now we know what each one is good at. And if we say we're going to take on a business, we're like, okay, Felipe's good at this, Diego's already good at this. It's great. And I'll say one last thing. In a partnership, you should always be excited to answer your business partner's phone.
Yeah.
If you find yourself like, I really don't want to answer that call.
I don't want to take this call. Yeah.
You might need to have a serious conversation with that person, because you don't want to drag that out. Diego and I, or Christian or whatever, like it's oh my gosh, he's calling. Hey, what's up, dude? Like it's just like that.
Yeah, that's funny you say that. I had this conversation this week with somebody. He's like, we just decided that, we don't want to do business with people that we don't want to talk to on the phone. I was like, yeah, that's a very good way to put it, because at the end of the day, work with people you want to work with. There's billions of people in this world. We don't have to work with people we don't enjoy working with.
Exactly, 100% agree with that.
So how did you learn the e-com business and the wholesaling business?
Great question. So e-commerce, like I said earlier, we wanted to jump into this business because we saw that a lot of people couldn't create second sources of income without spending more hours for time, and that wasn't the goal. So we partnered with one of the best in the best, Christian Trujillo. And what we did was we did a little research on trying to find someone who's in e-commerce that's not like a guru or trying to sell you a $30,000 course. And we found this guy, Christian, who is an awesome dude, heart the size of this building. And we were like, dude, can you show us how to do this and we'll show you real estate? And he said, yeah. So we went out through, and just Instagram. How I found him, just on Instagram, like looking at different people.
Yeah.
And we flew him out to Austin, Texas. We went out to this like little wine country, or little wine looking town. Had some great wine over the weekend and just like dug into each other. Like, hey, what are you like? Like we really just got to know each other for a weekend. And he showed us e-com, and I was like, holy cow, dude, this is real life. Like people really do this. And he's like, yeah. And it was funny because in his mind, this was normal. Like drop shipping, e-commerce, selling was just normal to him. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then he would tell us like, holy cow, dude, I can save on taxes like this. And I was like, yeah, like depreciations. And you can,
he's like mind blown about real estate.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, dude, you've been paying how much in taxes? No, dude, like, okay, use some of that income to do this. And we just had a great weekend.
Yeah.
So we've been leveraging each other's strengths and weaknesses against that. And he really taught us e-com. And now we teach it kind of to the masses for people to learn how to do it.
That's amazing. And so segueing that into the Mastermind, what inspired you guys to start Race Defi?
Yeah, so I'll never forget, Diego Corzo and I did you go to the Bigger Pockets conference when it came to Nashville?
Yeah, in Nashville.
Okay, so Diego Corzo and I both went to there, and Xavier, which I think I didn't meet any other Latinos at that conference except them two. And they're both my business partners now. The only two Hispanic guys that I found there. Anyways, so I sat down and had a cup of coffee with Diego, kind of just like this. It was in between breaks of one of the events. Actually, I think it was right before Josh Dorkin's amazing speech that he gave. We sat down and we were like, dude, there's not a lot of people here that look like us. We were like, there's not a lot of people here that look like us. It's like, do you feel? And we felt fine, but we were like, man, like, who's mentoring? Not, the average investor.
Yeah.
Right? You look in a mirror and you're like, yeah, I don't look like all the other guys. So we were like, man, let's try to help like them out. And that's where Rat Race was born. And then from there, what we did was we just did a bunch of Instagram lives like we are right now. And we just, started talking to people and just answering questions that people had. And it could be simple questions like, what is an HOA in a community? Or like, how do I get a down payment for this? But people are interested. So we just started answering questions, and then we just got flooded with DMs.
Wow.
I mean, just an ungodly amount that we couldn't get to. So we opened up Rat Race Defi where we can help others.
That's amazing, man. So it just started by you and Diego just doing lives?
Yep, just on Instagram, just like that.
Wow.
He would be in Austin, and I would be in Nashville, and we would cross collab Instagrams.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That goes to the point of like just putting yourself out there and creating content and creating value. Just be of service. Like, we got some lives going on right now with the podcast. Put yourself out there and be of service. That's really, really cool. And I love that you started from like you and Diego were like, hey, let's be intentional about bringing more education to Hispanic real estate investors, because I think you're right. I think they're underrepresented in the real estate community.
Well, it's anybody. I mean, we are just Latinos and we wanted to help other Latino as well, but everyone. I mean, we help everyone. It wasn't just like for Hispanic, but definitely we were like, there is not a Hispanic or a Latino person helping. And we were like, man, we want people to feel comfortable and maybe see somebody on a platform that looks like them. So that's why we did it.
That's powerful. And that was what, like a year and a half ago?
About a year and a half, yeah. And now we have a waiting list of like 50 people trying to get in.
So how did that transpire? Like if we have Monumental listeners saying, hey, I want to put together a mastermind like Rat Race, or I want to be a part of a mastermind like that, like how did that transpire? So
there's two questions there. I'll give you two answers. So how do you do something like that? It's like you said, be of service. Like what you know is what Diego Corzo calls your unfair advantage. Like what you know, it's very small percentage of people that know what you know. So it's like almost you could say your responsibility to get that information out there.
Yeah.
Also growing up, I saw that like the conversations of wealth and real estate were always had like behind closed doors, rich folk, right? Because I grew up that way. I grew up, what we have here, this beautiful stuff. So I can probably promise you that I probably cleaned some of these construction houses, right? So I started but I would hear those conversations.
Yeah.
People would be like, hey, can I, borrow this money to do that? Can I use your line of credit to open this? I'm going to refi, I'm going to pay you. And I'm like, man, why aren't these conversations being had in school? Why doesn't the average person know about these things? So if you know something that is kind of talked behind closed doors and you want to start a mastermind, educate people on that. Educate people on the things that you know that are what we call your unfair advantage, and just kind of give back to other people. That's how you can start a mastermind, by like having knowledge that is unfair that not everyone knows, and do that, right? So that's what we did. Like we know how to talk to banks.
Yeah.
We know how to do that. We know what they want to see, right? We know that they want to see cash flow, and so we help other people to do that as well.
I love that. And I think it, like you said, it comes from a place of service, and then it really just kind of snowballs from there. If you provide the massive amount of service that people are looking for, then and then taking that and saying, hey, how can we meet in person? How can we meet online? Like you guys have done an amazing job of saying, hey, let's create meetups. Let's do a Facebook group. Let's do mastermind events in Destin. So taking that and scaling it up and saying, hey, let's create like a culture of people that all believe in the same thing, and let's put each other in the same room, because we can together, 1 + 1 = 100, really, if you do that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The mastermind is our baby. It's like, so we also saw that like, and this isn't a shot to anyone, but you don't need that professional or that pro member account. You don't need like these things that are like people will join masterminds, get pro accounts, pay for a bunch of books because they feel like they're taking action. Because you hear that a lot. Take action, take action. And that's not what that means. Take action means, educate yourself, but then take action on that education. And if you're not, then that education is just entertainment. Right? Yeah, you don't watch Netflix, but you listen to 100 podcasts, but what did you do with that?
Yeah.
No, well then you just, substituted Netflix for podcasts, but you didn't actually do anything. That's still just entertainment. So take action on what you learn and teach it to others, and you're going to do great.
I've noticed, like, with everything you're doing, you think big, and you come from a place of impact. What inspired you to think big in the first place and have that massive impact and help other people?
Yeah, so probably my mom. So when my parents got divorced, I saw my mom really struggling, and like, yo, like, how'd you get us out of that, right? And I'll never forget a question that I asked my mom in 2008 during the recession, like as soon as it hit. I graduated high school in 2008 and went to college in 2010. So I skipped a year. I just went to work for a little while. And I asked my mom, I was like, after I graduated college, I said, Mom, how did you pay for my college cash? Because my mom paid college cash.
Wow.
Like all of it. And what happened in 2008? Like, how did you get through that? Like, I was a young kid. Like, I don't remember.
Not understanding.
Yeah. And my mom's honest to God answer, and she looked me dead in my eyes. She's like, what happened in 2008? She didn't feel any of it. And I was like, what? Like, the crash. Like, everyone lost their stuff. And she was like, well, we had renters, so I never not paid my mortgage, and I was just cleaning homes. So, people still had to get their house cleaned, I guess. She was like, so, I don't know. And I was like, wow, like, she really didn't feel any of that because of real estate. I mean, she knows it now, but at that moment, she didn't realize that she didn't have a stress of her mortgage payment because of real estate. Because she was renting our downstairs.
Right.
Growing up, I hated it. I was like, oh my God, why do people live in our basement? It's so freaking weird. But now, like, that's all I do, right?
Yeah.
In my basements and not me, but in our homes.
There's a dining room. Let's make that a bedroom.
Yep, absolutely. And I was like, so I saw my mom, echarle ganas is what we say in Spanish, which means like she just gritted through things.
Yeah.
And that has given me the advantage of seeing that firsthand. And not being, entitled, I guess you could say. I was like, no, like, I got to earn everything I got. And that's really been my motivator to, like, continue to grow and scale.
I love that.
Yep.
Say that again. Echarle ganas.
No, say it one more time. That was really good. Say it again.
Echarle ganas.
Echarle ganas.
Echarle ganas.
There you go.
I love it.
Yeah.
Guys, write that down or look that up. That's really cool.
That's a good one.
Side note, I love Jeanette shares with me different Spanish idioms or phrases.
And where's your wife from?
Most of her family's from Venezuela.
And Colombia. Okay, yeah. That's awesome. And she shares what now?
She shares Spanish idioms like that, where it's like she told me one of them is like dos colitas.
Yeah.
Like if you're coming to your braided hair, coming asking for something.
Yeah, las dos colitas.
Yeah. So I pick up little things here and there.
I love it. That's hilarious.
So really, what is the next iteration or the next phase for Felipe and your impact in your businesses?
Yeah. So right now we're just focusing on helping other people through our businesses. So like I said, Rat Race, ECommerce, and credit repair were built to help people get into real estate or find financial freedom. So our goal right now is really to grow that without like having us to work more. So continue to find assistants that can help us, whether it's virtual or that we hire in state. And it's just really growing that. And then my portfolio seems to really now be kind of growing on its own. Like it's really organic. Like people know exactly what I'm looking for and they bring me just that. Because I say no to a lot.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, yeah, no. Like, oh, actually that one does work. Let's bid on it. Lost it? Okay, that's fine. I'm not actively like finding deals. Like by now people know what I'm looking for and it's just super organic. For example, yesterday, there was a property in Augusta, Georgia. I probably shouldn't even say that live or on your podcast. Edit that part out so people don't know where I'm going. No, we found a house out there. The gentleman wanted $62,000 for it. I offered him $55,000. It needs $10,000 in repairs and rents for like close to $900. And it's like, it's that like, okay, so in your head, you probably just thought about the cash on cash, the net, like the return on investment. All I saw was $900 cash flow. Yeah. Like, cause I'm going to pay cash for it. So I was like, okay, great. Like that works for me. That's $900 that now I don't have to go work for.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's great. That makes sense to me. But if you ask me like to run numbers on it, I have no idea. No idea how those numbers work.
I love that. It's a very contrarian way of looking at real estate investing, but it works, right? I mean, that's the point. Is it works for you, and it's a plan for you and your business. And I think that's phenomenal. I mean, and just knowing that, say, hey, like, you don't have to go through a bank. You can close more quickly. You don't have the appraisal, all the reports. You don't have the interest payments. You know, there is benefit to that, but there's also benefit to not having to go through that headache.
Yeah. Now, I don't want people to be like, holy crap, it's because he's a millionaire now, it's easy for him. Like, you're standing here in front of me, these calluses have never gone away. Like, those are real. Like, that's never going to go away. So I've worked my whole life for this. But remember that 6-unit apartment complex that I was telling you about?
Yeah.
So remember, I sold that and bought one house cash. So we have a 6-figure line of credit on that property, where that's how we buy houses cash. We rehab the property, and then the bank's like, holy crap, you have a $900 tenant on a $60,000 home. They'll refinance it. And then I just pay off the line of credit. And then just do it again.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then, well, half of that usually goes to the mortgage. The other half comes to me in cash flow, so it'd be $400 or something. But I don't have any money in the deal, and it's a great strategy.
Yeah,
so,
I love that.
So I've become my own bank.
Yeah. Becoming your own bank, guys.
No, don't say it like that. But yes, yeah, I mean, essentially.
So one last thing I wanted to ask before we dive into our monumental questions. What is one piece of advice that you would have for our monumental listeners saying, hey, I wanna take that next step and grow my business even further, or grow multiple businesses, but I need more help, or I need to figure out how to delegate?
First thing that I would say, sleep on it. Okay, take a moment, think about why and what it is you really want. Don't make my 6-unit apartment complex a mistake. Did it make me money? Yes, because most real estate is never going to be a mistake if you find whether it should be a wholesale flip or whatever. Like, most real estate makes sense somehow, but without your why, it's like using a Honda Civic to try to pull something that from Lowe's. I don't know, like pulling it, like trying to haul something.
Yeah.
It has a purpose, but it's just the wrong purpose. So you need to find out your why. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? And then scale on that as the backbone. So why do you need an assistant? Well, because I want my time back. Okay, so you want your time back. So start digging into why it is you're looking for what you're looking.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be able to make the right hires. And then you're going to be able to make the right decisions, business decisions on who to hire, who to partner with, which is really important. Figure out your strengths and be honest with yourself. Maybe just get a sheet of paper and fill out what you're good at, what you suck at, and your partner needs to be what you suck at, and it needs to be his strengths.
Yep.
And that's going to really help you make the right decisions into scalability.
I love everything you just said, and I want to dive into it a little bit further.
Sure.
So you are saying start with your why.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out why you're doing this, and then figure out what you're good at and what you're bad at. Mm-hmm. And find people that you can partner with or hire or delegate to that are fill in your bad spots, mm-hmm. Or things you don't want to do. And to that point, what did that look like for you? Like, did you set aside time like one day and say, hey, I need to figure out what are my strengths, or write them down? Like, what was that process?
Yeah, so my wife keeps me very humble. And she's like, babe, you are good at sales. And you are good at sales. Everything else you need to stop doing, and you need to start delegating.
That's awesome.
And you know, it's interesting, when my mind was free from what I sucked at, dude, I blossomed. Like, I was really able to grow because I'm good at, like, sales and like working with contractors and like boots on the ground, because I speak the language. And I don't mean Spanish, I mean like the language of a contractor, because I've been there. Mm-hmm. So I know what they're talking about. Yeah. Those are my strengths. But if I sit down with a banker and the banker's like, okay, well, what's the cash on cash if you're going to spend $100,000? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know at all, but I know this works. But that doesn't work for the bank. The bank's going to be like, no, like, you can't tell me that. Like, you have to tell me. So I found partners that were good at what I was bad at. And that process looked like building honest relationships. Like, Evan, I can only add value to you in that I'm what I just told you, those 3 things. And if that's not what you need right now, then let's just be friends, but we're probably not going to be great business partners, right? So I had this conversation with my business partners. I was like, hey guys, this is what I'm good at, and I'm really good at it. But I suck at like finding good loans and good rates and like all this stuff. Yeah. So if you can do that and you let me do this, dude, we're going to make a lot of money. Like, my rental properties cash flow over $1,000 each. Like, I don't buy a house that doesn't, and I mean cash flow with an 80% loan on it. It has to cash flow $1,000 plus, and all of mine do that. Because that's what I find. but my business partners have to be able to pull loans, talk to banks, learn the spreadsheets, pay the bill, like just do all the back end stuff. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna make a lot of money together, but I really need you guys to know that don't call me if it doesn't have to do with this.
Yeah.
So I love to answer my business partners' phone calls because I know that they're only calling me about what I'm really good at.
That's powerful. I think one of the biggest themes I'm hearing out of your experiences is know your strengths and know your weaknesses, and just focus on your strengths.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
It's simple. It's simple, guys. And that, and a lot of hard work and a lot of sweat equity.
My mentor one time told me like this: if you know what an axe, right? Like the axe is pointy, and then on the back is like that dull part. Okay, if you lay that on your lap, the sharp part is your strengths. This part is your weaknesses. If you're gonna cut down a tree, why would you spend time sharpening this side? You're only going to spend time sharpening what's already that angle, that sharp, but you want to get it sharper.
Yep.
You don't focus on this part. So what you do is you get a partner that maybe has this side sharp, and then both of you guys go at the same tree.
Yeah. I love that,
man. You get to explode.
Guys, find the other side of your axe. Find that for your business.
Yeah.
Felipe, phenomenal stuff. Let's dive into our monumental questions.
Let's go for it.
What does success mean to you?
Time. That's an easy one.
Boom.
Yeah, that's really easy. I have money.
Yeah.
And I have time. And I choose time over money all day.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Don't confuse. So I hear a lot, money doesn't buy happiness. I don't 100% agree with that. Because I've been in a position where I've been able to buy happiness with my money because of my son. If he gets sick, I promise you I'm the first one to get looked at the hospital. Is that right? Probably not. But my son's health is really important to me, and that makes me happy. So my money allows me that, right? So money can buy you the things that can make you happy.
Yep.
And sometimes that's time, and that's time with my son. Like yesterday, we spent most of the day at a bounce place in Hermitage, so my legs are like shaking from jumping all day. But my son had the time of his life, and I was like, I literally don't have to be anywhere. We can be here as long as his little legs allow him to be, right? And that's happiness.
That's awesome. I love that. Time.
Success is time. Easy.
What about daily habits or morning rituals that you have?
Yeah, great question. I love being able to wake up with my family. My son loves to help us make coffee. I don't know why. the little Nespresso machine that he loves to do. And then I love being able to get him out the door and his day started in school. I think it's really important because usually the way your day starts is how your day is going to be, right? If you have like a bad morning, like shoot, the rest of the day is going to pretty much suck. Sunday's church. And then, I mean, really just having my time freedom to do what I want with who I want and whenever I want is a great success for me. But my mornings is definitely spent with getting my family like started, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And a little secret to that, I also wake up like at 6 a.m. and I go to the gym, and then I'm back home when my family wakes up.
That's awesome. What about favorite book or book you are currently reading?
Great question. Life and Air was the one that made me pivot into what I'm good at. It's like Millionaire, but Life and Air. So it's like having an abundance life. And it's just a great book. It's a great story about a gentleman who was a contractor making millions of dollars, but his family was like really failing because they were like, dude, you're never home.
Yeah.
And he really kind of like scaled back and like just started doing his thing, and realized that he really didn't need all that money. He needed the time. So he started like structuring his life around his time or whatever. And I was like, man, this makes a lot more sense than like, oh, I need 1,000 doors to do 1,000. So no, you just like, what do you really need? And do that. And then your business is going to grow organically, just like mine does now. Like people are like, how do you find these deals? And I'm like, you know what? I don't. They find me. And it's true. They really do. I can show you. We get emails.
That wraps up our monumental questions. Felipe, nice. phenomenal episode.
Thanks.
I love having you on. I love your energy, your vibe, your persona, your givingness, your impact for others, helping others, bringing people into your tribe. So I commend you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me, dude. I actually freaking love this podcast, but I do have one question for you. Is there anything that you wish that I would have said that I didn't? or that you wanted to ask me that we didn't get to?
No.
No? Dig into it?
I think we could definitely keep going though.
Yeah, we could.
But for today's podcast episode purposes, we'll cut it here. But yeah, we could probably do a couple more episodes.
We'll have to do a follow-up one. Dude, thanks for doing this podcast. Everyone listening, please, continue to listen to what you're doing, because the value that you're giving, not only is it free, but if people take action on what they're listening, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, 100%. Where can our Monumental listeners follow you, reach out to you, or connect with you?
Yeah, so Instagram is probably the easiest, Felipe Mejia, REI. And if they spell it right the first time, I'll send them a Venmo or something. But it's just, I'm sure it'll be in the show notes. It's my Instagram is probably the best.
I love it. Guys, follow Felipe on Instagram. Also check out his Race Defi Mastermind group, also on Instagram. And guys, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share, subscribe, like, review, do all the things both on Apple Podcast and on YouTube. And guys, with that, have a monumental day.